I've spoken to people who felt very, very Asian in some contexts, and then they went to visit relatives in the Indian subcontinent, and they realised that actually they were very foreign, they were very British, they weren't comfortable with the currency, they spoke differently. They said sorry and please and thank you a lot, which rather gave the game away that they were from somewhere else.
Sometimes when you're like standing on the tube and someone stands on your foot, you will apologise to them.
Yes, it's true.
It's that kind of thing. I mean, you haven't done anything wrong. They should have seen where they were going. But I think it's a very British trait to have. And personally, I don't think it's a bad trait, because if it's going to keep the peace, if you're going to turn around and shout your head off at them, you're going to have issues, and it will arise into a situation that it doesn't need to be. So I think it's almost as a peace offering that the whole British thing about how, like, being almost too nice, but then it comes into question, is it being nice, or is it lying kind of thing? And I think the boundaries are pushed between it sometimes, but you as an individual have got to make your mind up about where your boundaries are, and you've got to be accepting that other people might have different boundaries to you.
I felt the same kind of thing when I went to India, because we visited lots of gurdwaras and things like that, so I learned a lot more about my religion. And also, not just that, but you see the culture of your families and your ancestors and stuff. Because my dad actually came from India, and I got to see his village and how he used to live. And I could see the massive contrast from how I lived to how he used to live. And that really changed my sense of history and where I actually belonged. Because I would say I'm a Western my personality is obviously Western, but I keep in mind things from India, how my family used to live, that kind of thing. It's also part of my personality as well, and my identity.
Jessica Jacobson, a sociologist, has spoken about us all having a civic identity, British, an ethnic identity, Pakistani, Chinese, Belgian, whatever it is, and a core identity. And it might be your core identity that is Muslim, or Sikh, or Jewish, or who knows what.
If I was born in a different country, that's part of my identity that I didn't choose, it just is. So it's kind of important to distinguish between culture and religion, because culture is just, you're born into it, but religion, you choose to be of that religion.
You have one main core identity, and wherever you go, you're still made up of the same components. You're still made up of your personality, you've got religious identity intertwined with that and everything. But it's where you go, and depending on the situations that you are, that you change the amount of identity you show. At work, you wouldn't show as much of your personality as you would with your friends or with your family. And I think that's the main point of the core identity. You still have that main core identity, but it's about how much you're actually allowed to show of your identity that matters.
I think in these modern times, a lot of people are quite scared to show their identity if they are from, say, a different culture or a different background. And I think that people should be more open, and then people will get treated more as part of a community rather than if they just hold back. And I think society needs to change a little to address that, so then everyone can be more accepted and not just say, oh, he looks different to me, or he's does different things to me. We could just be all together and understand each other and our viewpoints and where we come from.
I think that stereotypes play a huge role in terms of clothing as well. If you did see somebody wearing a headscarf, you would stereotype them and obviously expect them to behave in a certain way. But obviously stereotypes are often false representations of people, so I don't think, obviously that's not clothing. It is a way in which to base your opinion on someone, but you can't fully base it on that because you're stereotyping, and stereotypes are 99% of the time false.
I think you change who you are, and as you get older, you change, and your own opinion changes of yourself. For example, results day, you'll see your results, and then you'll have opinion about it yourself, if you're a hard worker, if you're not a hard worker. And I think your determination and your confidence also play a role in who you are as well. So it's not events, but I think it's yourself. And as you get older, your personality changes, and you learn more as you get older, so then your views change as well.
There was a great philosopher in ancient Greece called Socrates who saw confusion, aporia, as actually being basic to a breakthrough in understanding and in new learning. Now, confusion can be, at a personal level, very, very painful, and especially when you're in your teens. But I think you have to be sure that out of that, all sorts of powerful learning takes place. And in many ways, I would argue that if you're confused about identity, it's because you're aware of different possibilities. And what the world needs at the moment is people who are aware of different possibilities.
I think people's backgrounds bring out their identity and like where they're from and their culture and stuff. Like, I'm from Africa and I speak Swahili and stuff, so basically I have an African culture and background, so it's like a bit different at home. It's all different, like the food is different and stuff like that, and then when I come outside it's like, yeah, different and more Western and stuff.
I think that one of the main reasons what affects us describing ourselves to other people is the fact that we're in this community where role models are everything. We look to the media for what we should be and not who we are ourselves. We don't look at ourselves for who we are. We grow up to be someone else, and I think that's wrong, and that affects us hugely because our friends around us are all looking to the media as well, and that all affects us because we can't find ourselves and we can't learn to love ourselves or know exactly who we are.
As I've grown up and become more mature, I've started to understand where my parents are coming from, and I've got more involved with my religion. And I think that's the same with most young people, but it also to do with where they're brought up, which part of the world they're brought up in.
It's good to interact with other religions and learn about, different religions. So you could, as a form of respect. But I think parents mostly believe, because people have other beliefs which are not similar to Islam, like an atheist. An atheist may say to a Muslim that, where's your proof that God exists? The Muslim might not have the knowledge to answer that, and he might question. That's why parents like to keep it in a unit.
I disagree with faith schools because I believe it's much better to have someone question your belief, so you can read about it, ask someone else, and it allows a lot of these discussions that we're having now to happen, to find out more about each other, instead of being enclosed in people who live the same way, think the same way. And it may improve you as a person if you have an understanding of other people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that parents like to keep you in a unit with your own religion, because living in a multicultural society, I don't think that's right. So, I've never ever not had a group of friends where everyone's the same, because it allows you to learn about people. And in terms of having to respect people, you need to be with them all the time, not just have a superficial kind of respect on them. So I think that as long as you're around people, if you have your faith inside you and you're really sure of it, you don't need to prove that to anyone. I've never had to prove mine to anyone. So if someone questions it, it's your responsibility to either know or not respond. It's up to you. I think that personally it's your choice if you have a religious identity or not. But I feel like to argue an atheist view or someone who doesn't feel that it's important, I think to a lot of people it's not important, and that's up to you because you have your own personal view of yourself. So personally, I wouldn't say that like my religion's fairly important to me, but then there's so many other factors in your life that don't include that or may separate you from your religion. So when you're at school, your religion's not really affecting you, or when you're in certain situations, you don't think about it all the time.
Well, I think the idea of adapting to society and being integrated into society and not feeling torn is quite an important point. And what Professor Nesbitt said to me was that it's sort of almost like we're all chameleons, and how a chameleon changes its colour through its surroundings is quite important, and it's actually quite clever, and it's more of a skill rather than it being torn apart as to whether it does, as to the fact that it doesn't know where it is. It's more of a skill to be able to adapt to society and be able to communicate and talk at many different levels and be able to go to different societies and being able to go to different countries and into different faiths and being able to manage yourself appropriately and be proud of who you are, stand for who you are as a person, but also talk about respect and also respect other people's opinion and other people's faith and their culture and traditions.